Hey, hey, it's your boy Monri. So, I'm going to be talking about something today, something I think we all need to talk about, and that's failure. Why do we need to talk about failure? I think the very first reason we need to talk about failure is a lot of us don't really know what failure is. I think some of us have a totally misguided, blurred vision of what failure is. Failure isn't you went out and tried and it didn't happen as you planned, so you think you failed. No, failure is not getting out there and trying. That's what failure is. Um, because the current situation you're in now is not ideal for you. Well, let me back up. Let me put it like this: just because you don't have your dream right now, don't mean that you're not headed towards your destiny. Let me say that again. Just because you don't got your dream right now, don't mean you're not headed towards your destiny. A lot of us want what we want right now to come right now, but we fail to realize it's not time is not on our terms. Time's on its own. We're on time's terms. Okay, let me not get off a subject here. Okay, Donald Trump. We all know Donald Trump. We all know who he is. We all got our personal feelings about him. But he says sometimes by losing a battle, you find a new way to win a war. Hmm. Let's think. Let me say that again. Sometimes by losing a battle, you find a new way to win a war. Sometimes when you go out there in life and something doesn't work, and so you go around, go past it, tried something different, tried something new. What did you lose really? Maybe you lost a little bit of time, you know, maybe you lost a little bit of money. But what did you gain? You gained so much more. You gain knowledge that that does work or that doesn't work or it didn't work for me at that time or what did I do on my part that made it not work or you learned how to go through something. You learn how to go through something. Sometimes by losing a battle, you find a new way to win a war. Just because it didn't happen the way you wanted to, don't mean it can't happen. Maybe you weren't ready, but you didn't fail. You learned so much more. By accepting the fact that you didn't fail, you learned. You have to miss a million shots before you learn how to get the correct form and shoot the one that go in. Calvin Coolidge, that's a famous name that you should know. He says, nothing in this world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. And education will not. The world is full of derelicts. Derelicts. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. Dust yourself off and try again. You know, there's an old proverb, Bible story, or what have you. Um, and I'm not going to go religious with this, but there's something beneficial with it. My aunts, they used to tell me a story about a some people in Bible times that had dropped a goat in a whale, or a goat in a well, like you know the old school wells that the water's in, and everyone's figuring out, man, how are we gonna get this goat out of here? I mean, there was no water in the well. It's not like he was drowning or anything, but it's so down deep down in there. They didn't have the modern technology to, you know. So how are we gonna get this goat out? So a little boy, I think it was a little boy, I may be off on the details, but someone came up and said, you know what? I got an idea. So they started getting dirt and throwing it into the well on top of the goat. The dirt would hit the goat's back head. And you know what the goat would do every time? He'd shake the dirt off and stomp it up under his feet. They did this all day, all night. Dirt in, goat would shake it off and pack it under his feet. And slowly, that goat began to rise up because of the dirt that was being packed under his feet. They threw so much dirt in there on top of the goat that the goat had enough dirt to shake off and pack under his feet to where pretty soon he was at level to where he can just walk up out of that well. That's the mind frame we need. You know, life is not easy. It's gonna give you some trials and tribulations. That's life. But what you do with it is what's key. Shake it off. Pack it under your feet. Learn from it. Eat that soup. What do you mean by eat that soup, Monri? Take your life for what it is. Take your experience for exactly that experience. A lot of jobs won't hire you without experience. So why do you think you don't get everything in your life that you want and desire without the experience it takes to get to it? All right, I'm not going to take too much of your time. J.K. Rowling, famous name. If you don't know who it is, do your homework and get out there and find out. J.K. Rowling says, it is impossible to live without failing at something unless you live a life so cautiously that you might as well not have lived at all, in which case you have failed by default. Say that again, Monri. Okay, I'll say it again. J.K. Rowling, it is impossible to live without failing at something unless you live so cautiously that you might as well not have lived at all, in which case you have failed by default. The proof is in the pudding, folks. You got to get out there and bump your head sometimes. You got to get out there and be sad sometimes. You got to get out there and get irritated. Huh? You got to get out there and have somebody not like you. That's essential into becoming who you want to be. You know, the difference between who you are right now and who you want to be is what you're doing right now. But you got to stop lying to yourself. You got to quit lying to yourself. Because if you're lying to yourself, you ain't got no choice but to lie to everybody else. And that's not keeping it real. William Rudolph, another good name. You don't know who it is, get out there and do your homework. William Rudolph, he says, winning is great, sure. But if you're really going to do something in life, the secret is learning how to lose. Nobody goes undefeated all the time. If you can pick up after a crushing defeat and go on to win again, you're going to be a champion someday. Think about it. Some of the greatest champions in life. I mean, my uncle used to tell me, you're not really a champion in boxing until you win the belt, lose it, and come back and get it again. That's the true essence of a champion. Picking yourself up when you're on the ground. Not help me, help me, help me. We all need help sometimes. But our mentality is not help me. It's how can I help myself? Sometimes you got to stand up and tell yourself what you're going to do. Because ain't nobody else out here. There's not a lot of Mother Teresas. There's not a lot of them. They're rare. It's rare to find someone that truly wants to help you. So why not make that person yourself so you can always find them? I'm going to help myself. I'm not waiting on somebody else to help me. I'm not waiting on somebody else to come educate me. I'm not waiting on somebody else to come and show me the way. I'm going to get out there and find a way. That's why I've made so many mistakes in my life, because I wasn't waiting on somebody to teach me. I got out there and taught myself. And we're going to get into self-education in a minute. One more thing about failure. A failure is not always a mistake. It may simply be the best one can do under the circumstances. The real mistake is to stop trying. I'm going to say that one more time because this part of what I'm saying, this is that part that you need to hear. A failure is not always a mistake. It may simply be the best one can do under the circumstances. The real mistake is to stop trying. Now, I mentioned something earlier, self-education. Now, this is not a knock on formal education. There's benefits. I get it. I got it. I know. I don't have a formal education. But what I do possess is a PhD, doctorate, master's degree, bachelor's, associate's, certificate of completion, and all that in life experiences. That's what I do possess. Now, John Dewey, do we know who that is? If not, go do your homework. John Dewey. He says, education is not preparation for life. Education is life itself. Education is not preparation for life. Education is life itself. A lot of people may feel like their degrees in uh, mathematics, their degrees in public relations, their degrees in marketing, their doctorate in this that is what's going to make them uh, solid all the way through. No, 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 no. Because I know a lot of people with degrees that don't have a job right now and are struggling. But I know a lot of people that never graduated from high school, that never got their GED, that are happy inwardly, outwardly, and they're successful in what they're doing. And they're continuing to be successful. Why? Because they have been self educated. Okay, don't take my word for it. Malcolm Forbes. You don't know who it is? Look it up and do your homework. The purpose of education is to replace an empty mind with an open one. Don't take my word for it. Isaac Asimov. You guys know who that is. Isaac Asimov is a great author, a great thinker. What does he say? Self education is, I firmly believe, the only kind of education there is. And I'm going to say that again. Isaac Asimov, he says, self education is, I firmly believe, the only kind of education there is. You can't tell me about being homeless because you read about it in a book. Don't talk to me about homelessness unless you've laid your head on the concrete somewhere and had nowhere to go, and not being homeless by choice, but homeless because you didn't have nothing, nowhere to go, and pull yourself out of it. Then you can tell me about homelessness. I've been homeless. I've laid on the streets, and I'm not boasting to you about being homeless. I wish that upon nobody. But what I can tell you is I've been through it. I know what it's like not to have nothing to eat. I know what it's like to be addicted to drugs. I know what it's like to be in the penitentiary. But it's the switching of the mind frame and the self-education that's what saved me from that. Self-education. Stop lying to myself. Get out there and find a way. Find the way, the successful way for me. Self-education. Jim Rohn, he says, formal education will make you a living. Self-education will make you a fortune. So if you want to be average, and again, this is not a knock on anybody with a formal education, but if you just want to make a living, you can go learn how to do something and go get a job doing it. But if you want to make a fortune, a lasting impact, and when I say fortune, I'm not just talking about monetarily. I mean a fortune of experience, a fortune of understanding, a fortune of learning. It's free. It's called live your life. Get out there and do it. You're going to bump your head. You're going to make mistakes, but you're going to climb out of it every time because you're being self-educated. You're looking and you're learning, you're listening, you're understanding, you're finding out, you're questioning. You're not just taking everybody's word for it. That's why I quote other people, because I don't want you to take my word. Hear what I say and hear what this other person has to say. You might not take my word for it, but you can take Isaac Asimov, Jim Rohn, John Dewey. You can take their word for it. They've been through it. One more thing. Nancy Pearcey. Homeschoolers are the ultimate do-it-yourselfers. They are self-motivated, self-directed, independent-minded, and creative. They are they are not content to turn their education of their children over to the government. They want to be active in that learning. And that's what you need to do. Be active in the learning of that life throws your way. You might not have what you want right now, but that don't mean you ain't headed towards what you're gonna get. And stop lying to yourself. Be honest with yourself. And stop playing the victim role. Because ain't nobody gonna be looking for you to help you. It's not a lot of people out there wanting to give you. You got to get out there and take it. That's my time.